Imagine not being able to pay for your basic necessities, such as food, clothes, and bills. In America, that is a situation for most who are working minimum wage. The United States of America is considered to be the richest country in the world. Yet, we have Americans working full time that are living in poverty, not being able to pay for anything that they need. In 2010, it was reported to be 15.1% of Americans who lived in poverty. We believe the minimum wage should be $10.10 per hour in America. And today, that's what we're going to discuss. First, we're going to discuss why minimum wage is so low. And lastly, how minimum wage could be changed to $10.10 per hour. Now that I have discussed what we're going to talk about, let's get into the problem with minimum wage. Minimum wage being $8 an hour is simply not enough. Since the United States has been in a recession, the price of everything has gone up, while minimum wage has remained the same. According to the United States Department of Labor, the real minimum wage falls as inflation rises, representing less purchasing power for the Americans that earn minimum wage. The Americans that do earn minimum wage do not have enough money to purchase different things, therefore keeping the flow of money going in our economy. Americans can't afford for basic necessities along with bills, with minimum wage just being $8 an hour. There are people who work 40 hours a week and they still have to pay for rent along with food and transportation. The money just doesn't add up. Some also have other expenses such as childcare, car insurance, health insurance, and not to mention the price of gas. Now that I have discussed the problem with minimum wage, Natalie Campos will discuss with you the cause of this problem.
The Republicans and the CEOs of corporations are the ones to blame for the ill of the minimum wage being low. The Republicans and the CEO corporations do not want the minimum wage to be increased. Many, if not all, Republicans believe that the minimum wage will cause the unemployment rate to be increased. When President Barack Obama seeked to Congress to raise the minimum wage, a Republican speaker named John Boehner uttered behind Obama's back, "job killer." The belief that in the raise of minimum wage, one will be killing many jobs is a belief shared among many, if not all Republicans. According to the blog by HuffPost Politics published on February 23, 2014 called Business, but Corporate Lobby Doesn't Think So, states that in 2004, David Brandon, the CEO of Domino's Pizza, declared that, from our perspective, raising the minimum wage will be a job killer. They believe this will be a job killer because in order to raise the minimum wage, people will no longer be working full-time rather than part-time and are afraid of laying off people as well. Therefore, CEOs of many corporations are as guilty to blame for the minimum wage still being low as well as the Republican Party. Many corporations believe that if the minimum wage is raised, then workers will no longer have the desire to improve themselves. Now that we have discussed the cause of the minimum wage, Jessica Tovar will be discussing the solution to this ill.
Minimum wage should be raised to $10.10 per hour. In his article, No Brainer, 3 reasons why a $10.10 minimum wage is good for America, published in March 2014, author and Governor Peter Shumlin states that raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour nationally will provide 28 million Americans with more money to spend and invest, increasing economic activity and growth. Now, 28 million Americans is a lot of people. If we can get 28 million Americans to have more money to spend and help the economy grow, then this will help America tremendously. Shumlin also states that recent studies conclude that raising the minimum wage makes workers more productive and therefore helps businesses retain profitability. When workers think of all the hard work that they input into their current job and they match it up with the salary that they're making, they tend to either make a choice of staying with their current job or to go and search for a new and better paying job. If we raise minimum wage, workers will be more motivated to stay at their current job and to increase their productivity at work. With productivity increasing, the business will rise and will then eventually have to open up more places and needing to hire new employees for these new locations, which in the end lowers the number of unemployment if we have these companies hiring more often. The cure is perfect for America to implement. It will help us Americans in many ways, especially with the number of poverty. Now that we have discussed the solution for the minimum wage, Diego Nicolas will now wrap things up.
As we stated at the beginning, minimum wage should be raised to $10.10 per hour. First, we discussed the problems with minimum wage being too low. Then we discussed who we should blame for minimum wage being too low. And lastly, we discussed how to change minimum wage to $10.10 to help Americans. Living in the richest country in the world, we need to act like one and show that we truly care about our citizens. Raising minimum wage to $10.10 will help maintain our image as well as help as many as 28 million Americans get out of poverty. It will benefit people. As we stated in the beginning, minimum wage should be raised to $10.10 per hour. First, we discussed the problem with minimum wage being too low. Then we discussed who we should blame for minimum wage being too low. And lastly, we discussed how to change minimum wage to $10.10 to help America. Living in the richest country in the world, we need to act like one and show that we truly care about our citizens. Raising minimum wage to $10.10 will help maintain our image as well as help as many as 28 million Americans get out of poverty. It will benefit people by helping them not live under poverty line and corporations thrive as well.